I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges of my life. Like seeing my dad go through the chemotherapy, 11 years old, like scared as hell. I don't think any struggles ever come close to that. And it was a real weird time. But I'm very fortunate in the fact that my parents, I guess, made the decision to live a life different than what they lived. Like my dad and mum grew up in fairly rough areas and they didn't want us to do the same. It's not like I'm from a rough background, like my parents and everything like loved us and looked after us, but the influences that I had around. And I've always had those challenges, you know, like that struggle of what is right and what fits with society. What I believe to be right, what everybody else believes to be right. That's always been a conflict in my life, to the point where my first job was McDonald's, £3.16 an hour for 2 years. And I did that so I could get through college. Then I went to work in a factory for nearly 2 years. Then I went to university because I believed that was the path. However, I was dreadfully miserable the whole time. I grew up like very creative, artistic, did graffiti when I was a kid. Got arrested twice. Like this is the first time I'm ever disclosing this, ever. Not that I'm proud of it, that I'm bragging about it or anything, but graffiti was like an expression for me, right? And I battled for a long time between what people said you should do versus what I felt I wanted to do. I was an artistic, creative person trapped in an educational system that didn't allow for growth in a direction that I chose. I don't claim to be the most advanced person in the world or the most successful person in the world, but I'm on a path like anyone else. When I asked the question, like, what more can be done? I had the conversation with my dad, like, he was like, I will get you a job in Nissan at the factory if you promise me one thing. This is temporary and it's not permanent. This is not something that you're gonna do for the rest of your life. After spending 2 years working in a factory, 60 hours a week, going in when it was dark, coming out when it was dark, covered in smog and metal filings, working in a car factory, that I decided that wasn't the life I wanted to live. And then for the next 2 weeks after that, I planned out the plan moving forward, like exactly what would happen, the things that would happen. The 21st of January, 2010, launched our fitness camps. This was like the first breakthrough of all. It was like a series of struggle. 20 people in the 6 a.m., 10 people in 9:30 signed up for our first fitness camp ever for 100 quid for the month. And like for probably the first time ever in my life, I had like £3,000 in cash in my hand. I literally ran from the location of our fitness camp, the 9:30, to the bank about 10 minutes late, like 10 minutes away. Had this money in my hand and I ran with it. I literally deposited that cash in. That was like the time when things started to turn. It started to go better.
Come on in and see the crib.
I had this dream of like, yeah, we'll have all these people running these fitness camps. I'll just sit back, we'll collect all the money. I don't have to do anything. But the reality is that didn't really work out that way. So I shut that down. It was like 6 figures a year, and I shut it down. It just didn't feel right anymore. And I decided I'd focus back on our fitness camps. And at that point, I decided I wanted a facility. So I approached a local guy. I was doing some kickboxing with him and decided like to rent a space with him there. I was going great for 6 months. We grew things. And like this was the start of a series of struggles and challenges and barriers and stuff that nearly ended me. And around the same time, like 2011 time, I met Danielle.
Danielle picked a beautiful location for us all. Hope you all
And-
agree.
Yep.
Like, she's been probably the best thing that's ever happened to me personally. Like, I'm tearing up about it right now. Like, she gave me the belief and the confidence that I never had. She believed in me when nobody else did. She told me that I could do things that I didn't think possible. She seen talent in me that nobody else did, not even myself. It's rare that you find a person that will be such a companion to you that they'll be there for you no matter what. When we moved into the facility, the martial arts place we shared with them, we decided to get some kit, and every Friday night was like fun Fridays, right? We'd do like prowler, sleds, kettlebells. It was like I guess the start of what we have today, New Era. And after the session, the guy who owned the studio like pulled me aside and he was like, look, as of Monday, you gotta be out. The reality is we didn't really have anywhere to train anyone. Fortunately, I was managed to sync up with the landlord of the building at the time, and he had a spare warehouse like 2 units down. It had no paint on the walls, it had no turf, no rubber matting. Our clients would come out there with like Rambo shit all over their face. Like, they would like, their hands would be so dusty, like they'd wipe their face and they'd just be like they'd been down the pits, or they'd been like rolling around in a bucket of coal, right? And like that probably was some of the fun times, like the most fun times I've ever had in fitness. Then at that point is when we seen New Era, the New Era that is today. It was a retail unit that, funny enough, I used to drive past it all of the time and see this building that was kind of derelict and say, like, wow, like it would be an amazing facility. And then within 6 months of this dusty, shitty old warehouse, we had like the dream facility. AstroTurf, like right down for our like metabolic training, our team training, rubber mat, and like 15-meter rig with 6 squat racks each side, like bumper plates, kettlebells, like full dumbbell rack, like everything we ever dreamed of. And then about 4 months after we got in there, like the dream facility, we got a phone call one Saturday morning from our coach, Graham, and he's like, Chris, we've had a leak. Like, he walked in the facility, we've had a leak. There's like 3 inches of water in the facility. Like, whoa. So drove straight down there, and on the way down to the facility, he called me back and he was like, yo, we haven't had a leak. We've been robbed. Every penny that I ever had into that, stupidly didn't have any insurance. The whole place was flooded. Our turf that I'd worked so hard to put in there was floating. Over 1,000 kilos of bumper plates gone. Every single kettlebell gone, which was about 800 kilos of kettlebells. Full dumbbell rack from 2.5 through to 50, gone. All in all, probably like 3,000 kilos worth of weight, gone. And our clients were great over it. Like, we spent the whole day, the next day, the Saturday, like flooding all the water out. We managed to stick the turf back down, and we managed to turn it around within like 24 hours. But for the fact that we had strength and conditioning programs running, people were paying like great amounts of money to be part of what we do, and we were no longer able to coach people the way that we were. The only reason I didn't leave the industry is because I never, ever, 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 ever will let anybody other than myself dictate the direction of my life. But it was the drive, the passion, reconnecting with the reasons why I got into it in the first place that really drove us on. Which brings us to kind of, I guess, the present moment in which we have the strongest team we've ever had. What I wanted to be the guy who's like digs deep into them and then finds out, like, not be the motivation guy and tell you can do this, you can do that and the other, but like dig deep into and find, like, why do you want this? Like, what makes you tick? What makes you drive, like, what drives you forward? Another goal that I have is to change the way that things are done in terms of people figure out, and I want to help people find their path. I want to find their beliefs. I want to find what they truly desire. I don't want to give them a version of me. I want to give them the truest version of them. It's not even about the money, right? It's about pushing the boundaries and, like, we're, what, like on this planet for 85 years, 90 years if we're lucky. I want those to be like legacy building years, so that the people that lead the path after me have a different choice to make. I tell my 18-year-old version of myself that at 18-year-old, you have so much time on your hands. At any point in life, I believe you have so much time on your hands. I would also tell people that education isn't the only path. Formal education isn't the only path. If I'd have known what I know now, I would have been able to create and forge my own path through education that I chose, as opposed to education that I was forced into. And now, if I was 18 now, this is like the most exciting time that's ever been. So regardless of your age, there is more opportunity than there's ever been. The hurt, the pain, the struggle is what shapes and forges you, because everything that I've been through now, from 18 years old to this point, even younger to this point, has built character in me that would never have been present without that struggle. The struggle is commonality in life. Everybody has struggle, not everybody has success. So embrace and appreciate the struggle, be grateful for it, because that is where you learn. If you're always successful and everything goes your way, there are no lessons.